What happens to a wall with graffiti? What happens to us when we are inscribed? One might argue that nothing happens, that the world, stripped of its cosmology of symbols and left only with facsimiles of their meaning, reveals its banality by attempting to cover up and give authentic appearance to a wall or to skin. Then again, who can really trust someone who has never had the presence to self to believe in something enough to attempt to prove it to themselves? Who can be trusted who hasn't ripped open their skin in accident or volition to prove their belief? Perhaps we are all engulfed in a centrifugal process of suspension, where our ideas and identities can give the appearance of having weight by their velocity. Perhaps we are all stuck in this suspended state. All this makes us wonder how one can even ever truly receive or perform a metamorphosis without the ability to hold an identity or a meaning in our hands and truly manipulate it. Take the medieval flagellant, for example. Through true belief, through a sort of complete cosmology of the world, there is the possibility for rejection and change. Because it is not a compendium of ideas, identities, and belief. It in fact can only be exchanged for a new totality, from the church to the millennium. But us now, how can we change? Kafka, in another generation, but a more modern one, wondered at metamorphosis. And in some ways, Kafka shows us the ugliness and impossibility of that change, the repulsive and somehow banal nature of the most seemingly monstrous transformations. Then again, maybe this is all overcomplicating what is basically simple. It would be better to start from the idea that metamorphosis, that profound change, is irreducible. That its complications in our modern or postmodern world are evidence of greater effects, not impossibility. Though the challenge to authentically take on a new self, a new role, a new form is much greater than before, this is not evidence of a lessening of metamorphosis and its potential, but of its much greater challenge and possibility. As we change in this world, what are we called to? In a world where change of identity, focus, belief, activity, and purchases is so seamless, so frictionless, what really constitutes real change? This is what we are confronted with. In some large way, we have all been liberated to believe whatever we like, as long as we express it, as long as we perform an action associated with that belief. We have in many ways drowned our actions in a superabundance of banal activity, constant expression of belief, constant reaffirmation of our ability to believe, constant rearticulation of our own idiosyncratic morality, constant finding of our crowd, of our people, of our very legible yet very peculiar identity. So then, metamorphosis cannot be simply a new emotivist challenge to the world, a new affirmation of believing in something, since believing in something is the general requirement for conscription in reality. Rather, metamorphosis is, as it has perhaps always been, about a fundamental break in form, a fundamental re-envisioning of not just our narrative, but of the position narrative has in our structural understanding of the world. A change not in belief or ideology, but in the very structure of those modalities in our lives. Ironically, metamorphosis is both the apotheosis and the nadir of means and ends. There is no metamorphosis without a before and after, and there is no metamorphosis without a becoming which annihilates the pretense of means and ends. Can we volitionally attempt to become something new? As individuals, so called, as a species, so called, as a being, so understood? We must remain doubtful that we can truly change. We must cultivate this doubt because it is a protective against the disenchantment of metamorphosis. And if metamorphosis loses its ability to enchant us, to seduce us, to surprise us with its ineffable occurrence, then it will become another banal widget, another modernist or arcane myth with which we become immune. in its overabundance. Let us not make metamorphosis a feedlot antibiotic, quickly transforming our identities in a procession of conformity and delusion. Rather, let us hope for the authentic illusion of a metamorphosis that takes us truly beyond ourselves. Let us hope it sticks around. Let us hope that there are still events and moments in our lives where there is a before and after, moments both irreducible and indelible.
Like Kafka, I'm chasing the final date with this old body. Straight up running and racing for a whole class of new hobbies. I've been sicker and thicker, I've come off stranger and lamer, but now the qualities of my existence require a two-ton lion tamer. This change is irreducible and it's fucking confusing you, but when I arise anew, we can watch the explosions inside of you. I'm on cult leader status, it's the position of all the will to power motherfuckers on this planet.